Good morning. Welcome to my podcast, The Knitting Equestrian Nomad. If you are a returning viewer, thanks for sticking with me and returning for episode 11. If you're a new viewer, welcome, and I hope you enjoy the content. My name is Karina. I live in Northwest Washington State with my partner, our two kitties, Herbert and Harley, and my two horses, Odin and Bragi, the Mustangs. These are two Mustangs that I adopted from the BLM, Bureau of Land Management, Wild Horse Adoption Program. I will put a link to that in my show notes in the description box. So if you are interested in that process, you can find out more information there. It's been a couple weeks since I recorded. I kind of had an episode in my mind last weekend. I think I can safely say that I regularly podcast every other week. Occasionally I get ambitious and am able to podcast every week. But I hadn't finished anything, and so there wasn't much news from that respect. And I'd spent a lot of my horsemanship time getting hay for the boys. All that is done, so I have a few more. I don't have any finished objects. I apologize for that. I do, and I have been able to do more horsemanship stuff. So hopefully today is interesting to you all. So first I'll show you what I'm knitting. This is kind of the, the bring and brag part of the show. This is a shawl that I knit. It's been a few years, and this is one of those one skein projects. It's a triangular asymmetrical kind of wrap. This is made out of, I think, this yarn. So here it is. Again, this is one skein of yarn. It's really long on this one side. I think it started here, and with like 4 cast on stitches, and then a series of increases over time. So here it is. Looks like it's funny, I just noticed this. Point out my boo-boo. Not exactly sure what I did here, but perhaps was knitting on the wrong side, but that's easy beginner mistake. So one thing that this shawl does say is that it's a little bit cooler out, even though the temperature is going to get up to the mid 80s today. What's interesting about this time of year, there's a noticeable difference in the length of daylight. So the sun comes up a little bit later and it sets earlier, so there's a lot more shade. So even though it's the peak temperature is the same as it was when it was really hot, it feels less hot because there's more shade. One other thing I just want to say about this piece is I bought the yarn in Spooner, Wisconsin on one of the trips that I went to visit my sister and my mom, who both live in Wisconsin now. My sister's lived there for 20 years, and my mom has lived there for maybe 6 or 7 now. I can't quite remember when she decided to move up there, at least part-time. So anyway, enough about that. I'm probably not going to wear this for very long, but I do want to wear it for a while because I just noticed I'm wearing the same t-shirt that I was wearing the last time I recorded. But it's that time of year. What do I want to show you first? I want to show you what I would like to finish. What I would like to finish is this t-shirt called Adelyn, and it's by Berroco. It's going to be hard to see. This is a paid-for pattern, but if you can see, it's basically knit in stockinette stitch. It's knit in pieces, and it's got this nice lace yoke. So I'm working on the stockinette pieces. I finished the back, and I'm now working on the front. So it's bottom-up construction. The yarn is a Japanese yarn. It's called Noro. And I am about 30 rows from being able to start the yoke, which is the lace pattern. So a lot of back and forth, ribbing on smaller needles, and then your just typical stockinette stitch until we get to the lace pattern. So I'm super excited about that. Again, the yarn is a Japanese yarn. It's made from primarily viscose, I think, which is a wood product, and cotton, and then like 12% silk and 12% wool. So it's got a really nice soft feel. And this is the second skein. So I'm kind of thinking this might take less than, maybe less than 3 skeins, if that. So yeah, super excited about that, and I'm working on it fairly diligently because I would like to be able to wear it before the season changes too much, and I won't be able to wear it. So I know podcasters always like to share what they're drinking. I'm just drinking water. I'm drinking it out of a plastic water bottle. I actually found this water bottle on a trail, on a backpack, I don't know, years ago, at least 10 years ago. Mazama is a small town in eastern Washington, very near the Cascade Mountains. Probably the northernmost town on Highway 20 in that part of eastern Washington. And so I know that this bottle came from a store over there, an outdoor gear store, but I happened to find it on a trail, kind of, it was in the Cascades, and the trail was off Highway 20, but not on the entirely on the east side of the mountains. So a lot to say about a water bottle that I use a lot, but you know, I get pretty chuffed when I get to use something I found for free. Okay, what else am I working on? So I am also continuing to work on my mittens, which I hope to have finished this winter. So the mittens are the Songbird Mittens. I forgot to mention the Adelyn pattern is a pattern by Berroco. They recommend using their Berroco yarn. I just happened to have some other yarn I wanted to use, so I knit a gauge swatch to make sure that I could get gauge with the yarn that I wanted to use. The Songbird, again, this is a paid for pattern by Erica Heusel. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I'm getting close to being done with the left mitten. So here we go. So there's the Songbird. These two colors will match a rain jacket that I have that's kind of a flowery yellow, pink, purple, and also a nice London fog purple raincoat I have. So as you can see, I'm getting close. I'm just where it started working on the decrease. There's the palm. These mittens are very much fitted to my hand. I don't have huge hands. I mean, I think I probably wear in gloves a women's large. I don't, one thing I was kind of concerned about is whether or not they would be long enough. I may have to keep my fingernails trimmed, which is fine. I don't typically keep long fingernails on purpose anyway, so that's not a big deal. But what I don't know is how you would adjust the pattern to make it bigger if necessary. I have a friend who knit some mittens that really didn't fit her, and she had to make some adjustments. And I admit that when she was starting to talk about it, my eyes kind of glazed over, because I was really worried that that was something I was going to have to figure out for my my mittens. So I don't know. Hopefully I don't have to. So all that to say, I'll just hopefully continue to be lucky with this. What else am I working on? Oh, I'm working on the Puzzle Shawl. That's by Sofia Kammeborn. We got the third clue today. I haven't finished quite yet with the second clue. But here it is. Let me see if I can stretch it out. It takes 50 gram balls of yarn, DK weight. So here it is. What I have are two 50-gram balls and one 100-gram ball. The 100-gram is this pretty Madeline-Tosh yarn. So what I'm doing is I'm making those stripes just twice as big. So this is where it started. Get this turned the right way. So the white, the lavender, and then this really pretty purple variegated yarn. So I should have this second part done this week for sure, maybe today. And here is the white ball, and this yarn is not what I have in my hand. Oh, here it is. This is Bo Peep. It's Yorkshire Spinners. These particular yarns were discontinued, so I got them on sale. It's my favorite price, clearance rack. And then the Madeline-Tosh. They didn't have the 3rd and 4th skeins that I wanted, so I ended up getting the Madeline-Tosh, which, I don't know, I think is quite a good choice. I mean, that's really pretty. I love kind of the orange streaks in there. So that's where I am with that. So yeah, this is a fun kind of lace pattern. A lot of just garter stitch in, well, here, how about if I actually show it to you? Yeah, kind of a fun lace pattern in the center and around the edges. And then I've seen the 3rd part of the puzzle, so I'm hoping to start that soon. And then the puzzle comes in 4 parts, so the next part will come out next weekend. But by then I will be behind for sure. I guess I'm already behind since I'm not ready to start the 3rd section. The other thing I've been working on are these socks. I love this yarn. So I did accent colors. It's self-striping yarn, so it's the pink, orange, and white. And then I did these accent colors. So the cuff, this, I don't know, I think it's 4 rows of rib, and the heel I did it in an accent color. Can't remember where I picked up this yarn, and I bought it recently, so I'm trying to do a stash down, but you know, I can't help it when I find cool. Here's the skein. So really fun, and I'm hoping to finish these so I can wear them in the summer months too. Let me see. I think this was also yes, this was also Yorkshire Spinner. So I found that at the sale bin at the same time that I picked up this the yarn for my shawl. So, but just one sock. You know, since I'm knitting on 4 projects, and I only have a limited amount of time to knit, they're all going somewhat slowly. Yeah, so that's what I've been working on. I did get a new acquisition. So when the Puzzle Shawl just first came out, I ordered yarn, but then realized that it wasn't going to come in time for the start of the knit-along. So I have these 4 skeins, 50-gram skeins, that are suspiciously similar in color to what my shawl is. So what I think I'm going to do is knit another t-shirt, is my guess, is how I'm going to handle this. So this is High Desert. It's sport weight. It's, and I've not heard of this before, 100% USA grown Shanika. Looks like, oh no, it looks like Shanika wool. So yeah, very pretty. And it's very soft. It feels kind of cottony. So I'll have to find out more about this. I don't see a website on here, but yeah, like I said, it came from Knitpicks. And of course they had to include a sock yarn postcard to tempt me further, but I think I'm just going to ignore that right now, even though some of those colors are really tempting, like this Muse hand-painted sock yarn right down here where my thumbnail is. That's very pretty. I mean, they're all very pretty. The Hawthorne fingering multi up here. Yeah, I mean, they're all wonderful. So, yeah, it's like 3 of these are Hawthorne. So that one, and that one are Hawthorne. This one down here in the corner is Muse. And then the other 2 are Stroll. So I know lots of people like to knit with Knitpicks Stroll. So I haven't used Knitpicks very much before, so this will be kind of a fun new thing for me. And then the other thing that I did, I downloaded a free pattern from Berroco. So if you sign up for their newsletter, they send out a free pattern, I think about every week. And the pattern that they sent out is another tee. I can't remember the weight of the yarn. It's either DK or maybe even a kind of a light worsted weight. And it's a raglan style tee with some lace in the ribbing, and then the rest is just stockinette. So I thought, well, you know, I like the pattern. I like raglan a lot. But, you know, I'm wondering if I could do something in that sort of plain stockinette. So I borrowed from the library this Knitting All Around Stitch Dictionary. And just look at the swatches on here. Really fun. So some of these that look like color work, like this one for instance, and this one up here, and then that one, that's a technique called mosaic knitting. And I have not done that before, so I'm kind of intrigued. Some people call it cheater, Fair Isle, or stranded color work knitting, because you don't have to manage 2 strands of yarn at once like you do in Fair Isle knitting. So in Fair Isle knitting, like my mittens, that's a Fair Isle style, you have 1 strand of yarn in your left hand and 1 strand of yarn in your right hand, and you knit them according to pattern, and you carry the floats, and then when it comes time to knit with the color on your left side, you knit with that side. So if being ambidextrous is somewhat challenging to you, the mosaic knitting might be a good way. I haven't tried it yet, so I watched a couple YouTube videos and read the description, and it seems fairly straightforward. One of the things that you do with mosaic knitting is that you slip the stitch that you are not knitting. So let me just hold that up again. So neat patterns. This one and this one are very intriguing to me, since that looks very much similar to Fair Isle knitting, even though, I mean, that does too. So so you slip it, which means that you get some stretched stitches. That's what I learned from a YouTube video that I will hopefully remember to put in the link. It's Watch Barbara Knit or something like that. I think that's what it's called, is Watch Barbara Knit. It's the name of the YouTube video that I found very useful. So I would think you can only do this mosaic type, well, I mean, with stranded color work, you're really only doing, you usually don't have a lot of blank spaces where there isn't color work, where you're not bringing the yarn along. So intarsia, which is a different technique where you know, like you have a flower in a corner or some shape, and then the rest is just a different color. That's intarsia knitting, and I have not tried that either. So that's something else to try. All that to say, this book, I shall hold up. You can see there's different cable patterns, different kind of block patterns, different ribbing patterns. There's also lace patterns in here. So when I have to return this book to the library, I may end up purchasing it because it's just all the stitch patterns are really interesting, and I can see how using this for when you have just plain old stockinette type knitting would be really fun. So it's just, and the other thing I like about it is that it is a spiral bound book, so you can hold it flat. Love that. So here's some more swatches on the back. So that middle one looks like it could be a rib, kind of maybe a lace rib or a lace pattern. So yeah, very neat. So I'm looking forward to trying this out eventually after I get these 4 projects done. So I have to admit, it's always a bit of a surprise to me when I get a project done. And then I was like, oh, what am I going to knit next? Because I tend to, once I get to the end of a project, I tend to be somewhat obsessive about finishing it. So I was going to get out my knitting and work on that tee that I want to finish while I talk about what I did with the horses this week. So I hope that's all okay with you. So the horses, what have we been working on? I decided to put my horse trailer in the back near the barn. It's a little bit tricky because we have a creek between our house and the barn, and there's a road over it with a good culvert, but it's very narrow, and then it's we have a lot of big trees in the back. So getting a horse trailer turned around back there requires a little bit of finesse so that you don't bump into anything, don't knock down any fences, anything like that. So, but I decided I was going to do it because ultimately what I would really like to do is be able to take Bragi along to places. I have toyed with the idea of doing endurance riding with Odin, which the endurance rides can be 10 miles for the really beginners or up to 100 miles. So some of you may have heard about the Tevis Cup, which is held in California. It's a 100-mile race. I have a kitty that's trying to chew on the box with my new yarn in it. So anyway, I don't know that I have it in me to really think about the 100-mile, but 50 miles seems very doable to me, and but all that to say, in order to do that, and if I go someplace, I'm going to need to take Bragi with, because it's just not fair to be able to board him for a couple days, because it's just not fair to leave him here all by himself. So so I've been working on trailer training, and I thought it would be a heck of a lot easier to do that in the back where both horses are familiar. There's no drama about coming up to the front. I'm going to move this camera a little bit so you can maybe just see my knitting. So that's what I did, and at first Bragi was really afraid of the trailer. It was, even walking by it was kind of terrifying for him, which I didn't realize at first, because the gateway to their pasture goes by the trailer, and they have kind of a narrowish alleyway to get from pasture, because I section out my pasture so that I can just manage the grass and their weight a little bit better. So, there's easily like 2 horses wide can go through that alleyway with plenty of room on either side for 2 horses to go abreast from each other. So when the first day I had it out there, the trailer out there, I just kind of let him get used to it. I didn't do anything with him. Odin is definitely very familiar with the trailer, but even he was kind of suspicious that, well, it's in a new place. What is this thing doing back here? But they got out to the pasture just fine. In fact, I think I brought it up when they were out in the pasture. So, and they don't really have any motivation to come up to the barn unless they get bored out in the pasture and want to come up to the barn to eat the hay that I have available to them. So when it was feeding time, normally they both come up. What I could see is that Odin, came sauntering up, and I kind of expected Bragi to follow, but he was worried about it. So I gave Odin his grain and got him settled in his spot to eat his grain. And I told Bragi, I said, Bragi, I'll come out and help you. But he didn't want to wait that long. So I saw him gallop through that alleyway up to the barn. And, he doesn't ordinarily gallop just for the fun of it. So it's like, okay, he's obviously very startled about that. So it's like, well, I guess I should introduce him to the trailer right now, because the trailer is parked. It's still attached to my truck. In their overnight pen. So they get pasture access during the day. They have an overnight pen that, they have plenty of room to stretch their legs and walk around and stuff like that. So I put Bragi's halter on, and I just brought him up to it and just showed it to him. And I did a little positive reinforcement, target training. Target training is where you show them a target, whether it's something that you have in your hand. And, for instance, you can use, a water bottle. Here, can you touch this? And they touch it with their nose. You make a sound. Some people, I just click my tongue. Some people use an actual, clicker sounding thing. And then you give them a reward for that. And they're like, oh, well, hey, that was pretty good. It wasn't super scary. And, I got rewarded for that. So it's a great way to communicate with horses. And, you hand feed them in a very specific way. So they learn that just because they're poking their nose at you, at your arm, at your treat bag or whatever, they don't get treats for that. That's not okay. They get, in fact, if they get too pushy about it, you need to, make them back up and establish that safe boundary between you and the horse. Because you don't want them mugging you. You don't want them to try biting you. So you set it up so that they get rewarded in very specific situations and only at that time. So all that to say, he did pretty good. He was getting very comfortable with putting his nose on the trailer, and it was to a point. And at first I let him just put his nose anywhere on the trailer. Like I would point to the trailer and say target, and if he put it anywhere on the trailer, maybe on the lead rope that was hanging off the trailer, maybe on the door handle. Oh, I have a kitty that's trying to play with my knitting needles now. Anyway, so I rewarded him for that. But then I was able to ask for more specific. Well, how about if you touch here on the door? And then once he did that, then it's like, okay, well, let's just be done for the night. I'll go, give you your grain, and you can just be settled. Yes, my cat thinks that my knitting needle is a lot of fun. So that's where we started. And that took maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15, no more than 15 for sure. But I would say it was an average of that took 10 minutes. And then I just wanted him to feel comfortable with going by it so they could get to, safely to their stalls and eat the hay that was in their stalls for the night. So the next morning what I did is I opened the door, and there was still a lot of hay in the trailer from when I had gotten hay the previous week or weekend. And so, at first, so I propped the door open so it wouldn't shut on them, and both horses came up, and Odin, since he's familiar with the trailer, he stuck his nose in and started eating first. And then Bragi came up. He's like, it's kind of fun to use, your more knowledgeable, steady horse to teach the younger ones. And in fact, this is a technique that Elisa Wallace, the, I don't know if I could call her famous necessarily, but she's well known. She's a professional event rider and was even I think picked as a reserve for the Olympic team before COVID. So 2016 maybe. Anyway, all that to say, she also trains Mustangs besides does high-level eventing, and she uses her knowledgeable Mustangs to teach new Mustangs. So that is a technique I picked up from her. I will hopefully have a link to her YouTube videos in my show notes, because I'm trying to keep a running log of the YouTube videos that I watch, so that you can have that reference, that resource, if you would like it. So anyway, what happened ultimately is then Odin, who normally just doesn't really, he resists the trailer. He's always resisted the trailer, even though I've gone super slow with him. Definitely made some mistakes with him as far as trailer loading, but he puts his front feet in the trailer, and I rewarded him for that. And then he's like, well, I can do better than that. I can get my whole body in the trailer and walk up to the manger where I'm supposed to be. So it was really funny just to watch him kind of showing off like that. But then what happened is that Bragi wants to try it, because he's interested in, he's a typical like younger sibling, even though they're not related. They're from different herd management areas. He's like a typical younger sibling. I want to do what my older sibling is doing. So he puts his front feet in the trailer. Neither one of them have halters on. So I recognized that this could get kind of squirrely kind of fast. So I gave Bragi a reward for that, and showed him how to back out of it. And then, but they keep wanting to do this, because now they're into it. They're really into the learning. They're into the showing off. I can do this. This is a great way to build their confidence in something new. So I kind of started making them take turns. And then I also had the halter for Bragi. So sometimes having a halter, I like working with them at liberty, but sometimes having a halter and a lead rope provides some clarity if they get confused. And, your session with them ends up going a little bit sideways because they don't know what to do, and you don't have any way to really show them. So, and it's not to just, yank them around or anything like that. It's just to, maybe put a little pressure on them, say, hey, over here, this is where I want you. And then, okay, gotcha. So, what I ended up doing is I made Odin go away and have the session be about Bragi, and I was able to get Bragi to come in with all 4 feet in the trailer. So that was really awesome. And that's where we ended the session. And again, I do these, basically in 15-minute segments before work during the weekday. And so we've been working on that for a week and a half, something like that. And this morning what I did was, and I should back up a little bit because I took Odin on a trail ride yesterday and had a little bit difficulty getting him back in the trailer. Because what he does is, he'll get in the trailer fine, we go somewhere, even though the destination may be 5 or 15 minutes away, he gets really nervous in the trailer. He really doesn't like it, and I understand that. I try to make it as comfortable for him as possible and just help him get used to it and just, build his confidence. But we got to the place where I was going trail riding yesterday, and he was kind of a sweaty mess. So, and then we went on the trail ride. We were out for about an hour and a half, and then he didn't want to get back in the trailer, which I understand. I mean, it's nerve-wracking for him. So we did our exercises that we do. It's like, okay, well, the alternative is not going to be, oh, you just get to graze. We're going to do something else. We're going to show me how good your backup is. Oh yeah, that's great. You want to try going in the trailer again? No, not yet. Well, let's back up a little further. Let's see how far you can back up. Okay, let's go forward. Do you want to get in the trailer now? No? Okay. Well, how about if we make a couple circles? So, he's got the backup down, but the going forward part is the part that's challenging him. So we work on going forward. And it took a couple tries, and then he's like, all right, I'll get in the trailer. So he kind of, some of it's a trade-off. Some of this is in part make the right thing, easy and the wrong thing difficult, which, there's pluses and minuses to that. But in part, I want the trailer to be a place of safety and rest for him, and he hasn't quite accepted that. But that's what I, that is ultimately the goal. It's a place of safety and rest. So outside the trailer might be some work, which is fine. It's all good, good practice for him. So all that to say, we came home. I unloaded him and told him what a good boy he was and let him go. And he immediately just took off for the far corners of the pasture. So, fair enough. I put some pressure on him and he's like, I just want to be done with this pressure. So this morning I wanted to know how he felt about the trailer. So I did kind of our typical weekday practice. And I just opened the door and stood inside and just see who was interested. So, and he got right in, which I was super proud of him for that, and really pleased. So, that's the thing, you always need to check in with your horses. Are we still friends today in spite of what our session was like yesterday, or what our day was like yesterday, whether or not we agreed on how the day went. But yeah, he's a good boy, and he certainly got over it. And Bragi, Bragi was willing to get in with his 2 front feet. And one of the things that I want to practice with Bragi is that I want him to be comfortable with his 2 front feet in, but I want him to also understand how to get out of the trailer without panicking. So I back out, and when he gets to the edge, I don't have a ramp, it's a step down, and it might be 8 inches, I'm not sure exactly. But for the horses, they don't know what's back there. It could be the Grand Canyon for all they know. So I want them to understand when I say step, that it's time for them to step down. Odin has this after, 1,000 times loading and unloading. Bragi is still learning, and so I'm not really emphasizing getting all 4 feet in, because I want him to understand how this works with his front feet before I ask him to do it with his back feet. So he's getting it. He's still a little nervous and high-headed in the trailer, but he's doing it, and I was using the same system. I'm rewarding him for getting 2 feet in, and then I'm gonna up the ante a little bit. It's like, can you get 4 feet in? At this point, I put the halter on him just for our safety's sake, so that he doesn't get scared and try to whirl around in the trailer with me in it with him. And he's really good. We have a great relationship. I feel like he looks to me even when he's scared, which is exactly what I want. So yeah, he got all 4 feet in. He got a treat for that, and then he waited for me to tell him to back up, and he still doesn't. It's kind of comical in a way, is the way he backs up. He really backs up till he's like hanging on to the end of the trailer just by his toenails, and his rump is all the way over, so he's got like all 4 feet like almost in a square foot area. But I told him to back up, and then he does it much better with his front feet. So we definitely need to practice with the hind feet. So we'll work on that. But yeah, I think tomorrow what I'm going to do is I'll put one of them in the round pen, and I'll work with whomever decides to be outside of the round pen. So I let them decide. I let them make choices on who wants to engage and who doesn't want to engage. So yeah, that was our session. I'm super proud of him. I didn't talk about gardening, so sorry to kind of end that abruptly. So I've been harvesting some things from the garden, some little mini carrots. I think I'm going to harvest the potatoes today, some greens, stuff like that. I don't have a lot to say about the garden. I need to water it. Tomatoes are still green, so I wish they would start ripening up, while we still have daylight. I think today Randy and I are going to go to the little local fair for a little bit and go walk around there. So that is the plan, and thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. I will get back to my story about Beach, my thoroughbred. Just a spoiler alert, he's no longer with us. He colicked and passed away in on February 7th, 2020. But he really was the horse that changed my life about horsemanship. So I do want to continue that journey, but I wanted to share with you where I was with Bragi and Odin and how proud I am of them. So I'm not sure what kind of pictures I'm going to put at the end. I did not take any pictures yesterday of our trail ride or any video, even though the person I rode with, she's one of my farriers. She has a lovely gray mare, and having Odin, who is gray, and Rose, who is also gray, out together was just really, it was kind of special. So I will say that. Not that riding with any of my other friends is less special, but I have to admit that riding with Rose is special, and I hope we get to do it soon. So again, thanks for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe. If you have any comments or questions, please notify me. I will do my best to respond, and all my contact information will be in my show notes. Have a great week. Bye.